While the days of fearing Sputniks and satellites flying over our heads may be largely over, we are still locked in a series of smaller Cold Wars spanning the globe, and these Cold Wars are being fought over every aspect of our modern lives. And one of our biggest enemies right now is China. From trade wars and fear of killer satellites, we've been fighting China for decades at this point. And these killer satellites in particular have been a main factor that's kept the US and China from doing a lot of cooperation in space. See, China's space program, CNSA, they should have seats on the ISS, but because of our fears of what they may do in space, we've never extended a hand to having them come join us. So, perhaps in this time of hostility, a little bit more cooperation in space could actually help go across these national boundaries and alleviate some of this bitterness. The main powers active in spaceflight should really help and encourage other nations and organizations to further their own space programs, because largely they would all benefit from newly created jobs and from research that we would conduct, and it may even ease some of these international tensions that I've talked about. Now, I've done a lot of research in databases such as JSTOR about the possibilities of cooperation and what organizations already exist and some of the constraining factors. But so, today, I'm going to be discussing the potential that exists already for international cooperation in space and some of the constraining factors. So, first off, I'm going to talk about APSCO, which is the Asia Pacific Space Cooperation Organization. Now, they were created years ago, but they've never really got much funding, and they haven't become a big name in the space industry. Everyone knows about NASA and SpaceX, but no one really knows about APSCO so much, not in the United States. And that's because while they have a lot of countries in Asia and Southeast Asia cooperating with them, they just really have never received the attention or funding that they would need to get off the ground. And if we were to help provide some funding and provide some training to people that work with APSCO, I think that could be really powerful in stimulating a desire for more space-related research and developing space programs in all of those countries involved. Another thing is the UN has already asked to raise wages of the workers in the fields of space. They voted on a possibility of creating some kind of plan for what space cooperation and laws about space would be like. And the thing is, these wages that they would be raising would be a good incentive for more people to join space-related jobs, which is really what I'm talking about in this point. See, if you increase a lot of funding and training in this area, a lot more people are going to be joining because they're going to want jobs in this area. The refocusing of international politics on stuff like space would create a huge international competition that you would basically get something similar to the space race, where you have a bunch of countries that are competing for their national spotlight to be on them, because they want to show off their scientists and their technology. They want to show that they have the best stuff. And this would really stimulate job growth, especially in these technological areas such around space. This would be very good for all of the economies involved. And so, also, the increase in demand for specialists to travel abroad and train these people would open up all kinds of job opportunities as well. And so, it really is a good idea from an economic standpoint to reach out and develop this area a bit more with some more international cooperation. The next thing is, the space race saw a lot of scientific discoveries and achievements made, which means that more countries being involved could lead to a similar speed up of technological and scientific discovery. And research, too. You see, having more countries with their own scientists and engineers involved means that these old problems that we've tried to work around for years may be solved because someone has a different perspective. All these new minds working on these issues means that there's definitely going to be solutions to some of these problems. The other thing is, while there's already a lot of support for things like extraterrestrial colonies and manned missions with companies like SpaceX and private companies, there may be more cooperation between not just nations, but also private and public funded space programs. NASA has already offered SpaceX some help and funding if they manage to meet certain goals. So I think that it really is important that we look at that, and we hope and we work towards more cooperation in this area, because if we can merge government agencies like NASA with private organizations like SpaceX, I think that the cooperation between them could be very, very good for yielding more scientific research and technological improvements that would, again, help solve some of these problems. And so, this cooperation would also certainly help land people on Mars and the Moon, and that would, again, stimulate more of the public to be interested in this in the first place. And so, lastly, I want to talk a little bit about what politically space cooperation has done in the past. The Apollo-Soyuz program really did help thaw the Cold War when, U.S. astronauts and Soviet cosmonauts worked together to dock in space. And so I think that could really work again today. With China and other countries that we're not so friendly with, working with them in space may be a way for us to connect and help them in a way that's not really benefiting their militaries, which is one of the biggest things that we don't want to do. So, as I said, working with APSCO may really help this. And the UN, as I mentioned already, would like to create a charter, and so I think that we should really push that through, so we would have less worries about what malicious things may be done in space. Working with China in space and offering them ISS seats could really help with current trade disputes and fighting that's occurring between us and China, because they may be more inclined to deal with us if we've been kind and shown them that we really do care about humanity, and we don't just care about our own interests. So, in conclusion, I really do think that helping other countries in space would lead to a lot more jobs created, advancements in science that would really help all of humanity, and I think that it would help relax some of these tensions that have built up internationally. Rather than continuing to worry about the state of relations between countries, and to better the situation of humanity overall, I think that more international cooperation should be pursued. To make a real difference in the state of space relations and the current suspicion in the space missions, we need to cooperate with other countries far more when it comes to our space programs. Thank you.